Yes, another episode of John and Mark
Yes.
meet our fave pals from the VC. And look, it's James Buttery, everybody. Wow.
All the way to New Zealand.
I must just get a little reaction thing there. There it is. See, the ice cream cone thing.
It's a classic good evening, good morning, John.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So it's what time is it now? Quarter to 10 at night.
Yeah. And quarter to 10 in the morning here.
So I'm having a vodka and lime. James, what are you doing?
I've got some
coffee.
So this is our thing that's become a bit of a lockdown thing, actually, and it's been amazing to make all these connections with people around the world, and we're absolutely delighted to welcome a VC legend, Mr. James Buttery.
VC legend. I've been around a while.
So we're all going to be sharing 7 records and a book, and James is going to kick us off with what he's been listening to recently.
Yeah, it's actually amazing what this whole situation has done with the VC and brought people together in sort of a live format. So I've caught up with a few people just through video, nothing like on like a YouTube video, but it's just kind of like the next step of almost where we were heading anyway in terms of having live things, and this has sort of pushed it into something that's really happening. So anyway, okay, so this is the brand new release from Jazzman. I don't know if you guys know this. It's called I'll Remember by Roscoe Weathers. So it just came out this year.
Wow.
In fact, it came out I think last month. And so he's like a flautist he was born in Memphis, but he sort of spent most of his time up and down the west coast of LA and Seattle touring there. He was sort of born in the 20s and grew up playing with Charlie Parker and almost like a blues background. The description is the very first survey of cult LA jazz flautist, Afro-Latin beat, recorded 55 to 1971.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really cool. It's a really interesting little thing because he's obviously kind of very obscure and sort of time has sort of forgotten this guy, and they've decided to go in and dig him up and sort of compile a whole bunch of things that were only on 7 inches or tapes or whatever and put it together into sort of like a little, I guess, retrospective or something, compiling his work. So yeah, it's sort of like a mixture between Latin, flute stuff, kind of funky, laid back, kind of groovy. There's some more spiritual kind of numbers in here. It's just kind of a really nice little document of this guy who I'd never heard of previously.
I've never heard of him. Do you know?
No.
Wow.
No.
What label is it on, James?
Jazzman.
Oh, Jazzman, right.
Yeah, the UK label. So yeah, really interesting. So, of course, Chris Cole knows who this is and has one of the records.
Chris probably knows.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where I guess in the context of what this is and how it's a document for him and the story, it's all really nice and really interesting. But if you heard it kind of out of context, it maybe wouldn't grab you as anything massively unique or individual. Do you get what I mean? Like it's not, it's interesting as a story and a document of this person, and it all ties together when you're listening to it in a chronological order and when you're reading the liner notes. But I guess if you heard it in a playlist, maybe it wouldn't jump out so much and you wouldn't sort of go, what is this? But I'm enjoying it,
Any standout tracks?
It's got Afro-Latin Junto 2. not very catchy. Yeah. Nice. It's really good. I would recommend it. I didn't know what it was, and there's a record store here that I visited in a different city, and the guy kind of knows my taste, and he recommended it to me, and I just said, go on then, why not?
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting release for Jazzman to do something like this, where they pick someone out that's basically unheard of, and do that. So yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Roscoe Weathers, I'll Remember.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Go on, John.
I have a coffee slurp. I hope you can't hear it too loudly.
Am I going next, Mark?
You are.
Okay. There's a very weird phenomenon when you think, when you can actually convinced you have a record and you don't have it. And I've never had it either. And this was the classic case of it, actually. The Susan Medina. I actually just went to my stack to get it out and play it a few days ago, and I just don't have it. And I thought,
really
bizarre, actually. And
I'm sure
And
you played it to me before.
I thought I had done as well. And I also checked that. I had a list, a pre-Discogs list of what I had, and it wasn't on that either. So,
Wow.
so I had to get it from, and it's a great, I'd say the pressing is fantastic. Actually, it's a pure pleasure pressing of this record on Strata East, and it's just great. Actually, it's just it's kind of it's always been one of my favorite Strata East, even though I haven't had it in my collection before. So Cecil McBee, bassist, kind of Jimmy Hops, George Adams, Billy Hart, just a really good range of stuff on it. It's also got his son playing electric bass on one track, which is completely mental.
Yeah.
It's got this kind of, got slap bass all over one track as well. Nice. So yeah, nice to finally have it.
I should have that too. It's just on my list of things to pick up, and pure pleasure in doing all that sort of stuff at the moment. And I need to get around to picking them up.
It's a good label.
And all the Tribe stuff's coming out again, and all the Strata East stuff's coming out, and I'm kind of finding it hard to keep up a bit.
Yeah, some of the Tribe stuff is not that great, actually.
I know, I agree. It's kind of like, for me, I've for years I've had them on want lists, and I've only ever seen them on Discogs, and you kind of like build up in your head, oh, this is worth it's worth this much, or it's hard to find, it must be good, and then they finally get reissued, and you go, oh, this is not what I was expecting, or not as good as I was expecting. Like kind of like when you don't know what it is, you kind of build it up in your head more to think,
It's a bit like some of the black jazz stuff as well. That label, it's not.
Oh, I agree. I think some of that stuff is really average, but it's super collectible.
But I got those. I got the 2 double Japanese compilations of the Tribe.
Yeah,
they're really good, actually.
The artwork is fantastic on them as well. Yeah, you don't need to bother then. You're done.
I'm done. I'm not going to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Have you got this, James?
I haven't got it yet. No.
Yeah. So this is.
I haven't got it yet, but I should.
Yeah. Well, it feels to me that this is definitely the Melbourne chapter. I think we're keen on this. I certainly remember Fred showing the last one, and I think
we'll pick it up.
So a Melbourne band who bizarrely I actually saw in Ramsgate Music Hall a couple of years ago, without their original drummer, with this amazing female drummer, and just an amazing sound, and they really mix the analog and the electronics in a really kind of unique way. It sounds very contemporary, but also very sort of synthy and vintage, and just very nice grooves, nice rhythm work, very good sounds, catchy tunes, this kind of space where funk, disco, krautrock and cosmic synthesizers meet. So yeah, nice.
Would you say it's kind of an extension of the last one, or does it move into a different space?
I'd say it's not a hugely different space, but it was quite a nice space to start off with. So maybe a little bit more polished, maybe more consistent, because for me there was one really standout tune on the last album, but so far there's at least half of these sound really good. But I only picked this up last week, but nice.
Cool. Yeah, I never saw them. I think I moved back to New Zealand just as they were sort of blowing up a bit, and just didn't happen. Never played here, and I'm sure I will at some point. I can imagine what they would be like live. I think they'd be fantastic.
They were great. Really, really nice. Yeah.
All right, next one is this. It's called Napoli Segreta, and this is probably about as far as I go in terms of disco and sort of like funky disco. It is kind of a little bit cheesy, but I've been really enjoying it lately. It's obviously coming into summertime, so I wanted something a bit fun. So it's just a compilation of really interesting disco cuts, hidden gems from the bowels of Vesuvius, of just funky disco tracks from Italy, which is really cool. I've been really enjoying it.
What sort of era is it, James?
It's 70s. I think it's sort of. Hang on, it's sort of mid 70s to early 80s stuff. But yeah, it's really cool. I don't know, my disco knowledge is terrible, and I'm kind of a bit scared to really go into there, and I need some pointers in terms of where I should head in disco, and this is something that kind of ticked a couple of different boxes of something interesting for me. So
what sort of artists are on there?
They're all in Italian.
Oh,
It's kind of obscure stuff. Like it says on the back here that they've purposely picked unfamiliar artists and local things, and there's no one famous. I mean, I can read a couple out: Giancarlo Doria, Donatello Vigiano, Antonio Sorrentino. I imagine these are probably not very well known artists.
Some that might be library music, do you think? Possibly.
Nah, it's definitely not. I mean, I can definitely imagine them being played in clubs and discos and stuff like that. There's lots of like vocal cuts and stuff. It's good. I really like it. The thing that scares me is I can see that they've written volume 2 here, volume 1, which means they're going to put more out, which means I'll the follow-up to them.
That way leads to
I was playing a 12-inch by a band called Fascination called Out to Get You on a radio show earlier this week, and I didn't realize it was an Italian sort of funk disco outfit until I sort of looked it up on Discord.
Right.
And yeah, because there was the band Change were originally.
Just right. Yeah.
So yeah, there was a big scene there.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I feel like that may be something on the horizon, maybe heading more into like a funkier disco territory, where previously I've gone, oh, it's a bit cheesy, or I don't know, but we'll see where I head. We'll see what happens.
Look out for Leroy Burgess.
Thank you. I'll write that down, actually.
Yeah, there's
a whole lot of
Leroy Burgess.
Yeah.
There was a really I feel like I'm diverting off topic, and it's going to be a very long video. There's a compilation came out a couple of years ago here, and it's sort of like disco music from New Zealand, and there's some really interesting cuts on there. I'll send you a link to it later. I don't have it, but I should really pick it up. And there's some kind of really cool, interesting, funky disco stuff that you'd be quite surprised that it's come from here.
Chris 1427 Basket is a real digger extraordinaire on the boogie disco front. Yeah, he could certainly point you in some good directions.
Yeah, I'll get in contact.
Yeah, John, you were
cool. All right.
Well, this is not much to look at, but this is D'Angelo's Voodoo Gigi Soul Essentials. Have you got this one, Mark?
No.
Cool.
This was played by Mark and I both do a radio show on Rootstock Radio Rootstock, and Tom P, who's one of the other DJs, played the instrumental version of Spanish Joint of this. This is basically 3 tracks of Voodoo with instrumental versions on the B side.
Really?
Which are just great. And I kind of I hadn't played it for a long time, and I must admit I kind of thought that they were pretty much just the vocal versions with the vocals stripped out, but they're not actually. They're slightly different. So it's just great, and also they sound great just in instrumental form. So he was doing a little tribute to Roy Hargrove and just was playing the stuff off here. Nice. So yeah, it came out on Virgin around the same time as I think it came out before Voodoo came out on vinyl actually.
Wow.
So this came out when the CD came out originally.
Wow.
Certainly got it. And this is it only ever came out as a promo. And I can't remember. I completely forgot where I picked. I think I picked this up from Honest John's Records, which is down the road from me in West London. It's great. Anyway, it's really good.
Nice. Very jealous that you can just pop down the road to somewhere like Honest John's, which just seems so far away. And,
well, I can't at the moment, but
no.
Right. This is another bit of VCLT, although it wasn't described as that, from Stavros the Spinning Greek, who sent this massive package to me and John, which is currently all residing still with me, and I'm slowly working my way through it. This is a band, well, it's a guy really called Chris Schlab, and he goes under the name Psychic 3, or this is called Psychic 3. And there is Chris, I imagine that's Chris there with the shades.
And looks like it's probably him. Yeah.
I think it probably is him. He plays the guitar, and I think at his core he's a kind of jazz player, but there's a lot more than just jazz going on here. There's kind of blues, country. He sings on it. It's kind of a bit psychedelic. It's a bit kind of wonky at times, but really beautifully recorded. It's from 2016, and I guess sort of Wilco came to mind actually, John.
Yeah, I think I might have got this from Bandcamp actually on
really?
Download. Yeah, it is good actually.
Yeah. So again, Stavros coming up really trumps with music that I've never heard before. So the reason we love the VC, because you're always hearing about music that you knew nothing about. So yeah.
Yeah, I like watching videos where I don't know anything about the music.
So do I.
Yeah, or even sometimes things I'm not massively interested in so much too. I just like to see people talking about things I have no idea in, or just and I find that stuff really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that heavy metal. Do you remember the kind of metal couple that were on in the early days?
Yeah.
And this, great actually. They were very
long time ago. Yeah, it's funny. It depends what everyone can bring what they want to the VC, but I kind of like the idea of being able to share and show things that I think people would like and talk about. And anyway, speaking of Honest John's, I was listening to this, which is out on the Honest John's label, which I think is an amazing album.
Record.
This blew my mind when I first heard it. Do you guys know this, or
Yeah, I do. I also had some of the stuff on kind of 7 inches, and it sounds 100 times better on that Honest John's record.
I imagine.
So well as well. It was one of the very first things they did on their label. Really
interesting. Flat, but it's just an amazing mixture of I guess jazzy, funky, dubby bits, Afro beats, the massive drum sound. It's just an amazing compilation, a real mixture of stuff. Super talented, kind of accessible at the same time. It's really fantastic.
I don't know him.
Well, we worked with Sun Ra and with Fella.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
so cross between the two, isn't it? Quite a lot of time.
Yeah, you can kind of hear it too as well. But it's really fantastic. Just really fun again. The sun was out and I was playing this, and I kind of I knew it was good, and every time I play it, I kind of forget how good it is. I think it's amazing.
It's a great playing. I mean, you don't often get incredible solos in reggae.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the jazzy solos in there are really great, and just really the horns are really fluid and stuff like that. And I think I've said in my videos, I only really got into reggae sort of like 2.5, 3 years ago, and kind of I discovered this pretty early on, and it kind of really gave me a sense, because there's quite a few styles on here, of where I could go and what I liked and what didn't work and what did work, because there's quite a variety of things in here. So I was kind of lucky. I feel that. Oh, what's happening there?
That's a very good one to get into, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
That's coming out tomorrow, I think, or maybe even later tonight. Actually.
Wow, we're getting some sort of interesting dubby kind of effects from James's voice there.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe I need to back or something. I don't know.
So this was a VCLT from Anders in Stockholm, actually, years and years and years ago.
Oh, wow.
This is Henrik Wallin, who's or Wallin, I don't know how you pronounce his name properly. He's a fantastic Swedish pianist, and I got this out. I haven't listened to this for ages, and he's just great, actually. I mean, kind of in a kind of, was not kind of cross between a kind of post-bop and a kind of avant-garde player, but really, really got beautiful kind of touch, actually. And this is just a great record, actually. So very happy to have this in the collection. I haven't played it enough, actually, until recently. And this is a kind of, I think this is a kind of compilation. I'm not sure. No, it's not a compilation, actually. It's all recorded on the same page. So early 80s, just really, really good, great piano player, actually. A slight bit Evans influence, but really, he's definitely his own guy, actually. Really good record. It came out on Caprice, which is one of the big kind of Swedish jazz record labels as well.
Brilliant cover.
So thank you. Well, I thanked Anders already about 4 years ago, but thank you again.
Funny you say that. I picked up a Per Henrik Wallin album because of Anders too, about 4 years ago, and it was also in Caprice. It has a black cover, and it was sort of a late 70s one, and it was kind of exactly what you described, but that was all because Anders talked about it, and I had no idea who he was, and I saw it in the store, and it was cheap, and really solid.
Really good player.
Can't remember what it was called.
This next album was shown, I think, by Lawrence, who goes under the name Mellow Man. I don't know if you watch him, James.
I should do that now. No, I need recommendations at the moment. I'm kind of feel like I'm scraping the barrel of it.
Oh no, he's really good, really good. Anyway, I think if I'd seen this cover and I didn't know who Richard Evans was, I don't think I would have picked it up. I mean, you couldn't get away with that these days, really, could you? But there he is.
That cover.
Sticker on the front, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But what a great album. And this kind of, I hadn't really clocked how many albums I had that had Richard Evans' name, either sort of as a arranger, conductor, composer, bass player. But he was around. He played on a very early Sun Ra album, I think, as a bass player. But then really featured during the kind of early cadet, well, not early cadet, sort of late 60s, early 70s cadet, Ramsey Lewis. Gosh, who else? Eddie Harris. Eddie Harris appears on this. Sort of very similar to kind of Charles Stepney orchestration, not quite as out there. But John, you were saying that kind of he was sort of in the shadow of Charles Stepney in a way.
I think, yeah, I think a lot of people felt at the time he was kind of like, when they couldn't get Charles Stepney to do something, he'd do it instead. Yeah. But he's got a different style, I think, actually, much more direct.
Terry Callier, you know, if you check out the Terry Callier albums, you'll see some amazing string arrangements. And this is
on there. Wow. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So this is in the kind of mid 70s, you know, funk, jazz, disco, but it's beautifully played and great arrangements. Wow. And I did nearly a whole radio show just with tracks that featured Richard Evans a couple of weeks ago, which was really good fun. Yeah. So thank you to Lawrence for turning me on to this. This was another classic VC find, and not at all expensive.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'll see his name around now popping up. Yeah. You know, like when you know a name.
Yeah.
He'll just,
Well, even if you look on your Discogs, if you look on your collection and Discogs and just put his name in, I'm sure he'll pop up on a few tracks that will surprise you.
I have a few of the Terry Calliers, so he'll be on there for sure.
There's a great Ahmed Jamal record called Jamal Plays Jamal.
That's right.
Which does amazing string arrangements on, and one of them's the classic. It was one of the first Dilla samples ever, which is on Stakes is High, the Dilla Soul album, which was taken off as well. And I played that. In fact, I played that on the show after Mark's, inspired by Mark's show. Actually, it's an absolutely epic track, incredible track actually. And Dilla was obviously digging very deep, looking for samples actually, because that's buried away right at the end of a very, very long track.
Wow.
That's it.
There you go. That's a really good recommendation. I'll keep an eye out. It's one of those names where it would be so easy to forget if you don't write it down, or it's kind of like, you know, with more memorable names, like, you know, someone like Fela Kuti, you'll never forget that name in your life. Whereas, you know, it's like one of those things where if it's a memorable name, you kind of, it sticks in a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I have to make a note. All right. Okay. So this is a reissue of, do you guys know this? Paz Our Bat. It's like a UK funky fusion thing from the 80s. I remember
seeing Paz. I saw Paz.
Right, there you go.
In the early 80s.
Yeah, it would have been, this came out in 82. So I guess you would almost say it's like a hard fusion album, but it's like a funky jazz fusion thing. I really like it. The reason I bought this is because there's the drummer in here is from New Zealand. He's from here actually. I think he's basically New Zealand's best sort of jazz, or it was a jazz funk drummer. But the other names on here, you guys probably know these more than me. Like Dick Crouch, Jeff Castle.
Oh yeah.
Ray Worley. I really like it. I would like to find an original, but they go for a lot of money. But yeah, I think this is really cool.
Who's the drummer?
What was that?
Who is the drummer?
The drummer is, God, I want to say Murray McNabb, but I don't think it is. It's the other guy whose name I've completely forgotten, and I probably should have researched it before the video. God, I'm doing a mind blank. Hang on, I'm going to have to rectify this.
No research at all. So.
Gosh, I definitely.
Do you know, like, when you know it, I know it, but it's just I'm completely having a mind blank.
Doesn't matter.
Have you guys ever heard that Dr. Tree album, or know of it? It's like the New Zealand jazz funky thing.
No.
I should have showed that. Frank Gibson. That's what's trying to think of. His name is Frank Gibson. Yeah. He's an amazing, jazz drummer. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that cover. Really, really cool.
Is it quite?
They have a couple of.
Go on, James.
You go. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, is it quite Latin?
No. It looks kind of like it might be, but it's not. It's a very. I I don't know, I want to say smooth, that's not the right word. Smooth, hard, funky. I'm trying to think of some touch points, but I'm just having a mind blank. I feel like I've thrown myself off a bit. It's polished. Yeah, it's polished. It's some of that fusion stuff I kind of like, oh, it's very overplayed. But this kind of just is funky enough to just sort of keep me in the loop, I guess. Yeah.
Nice.
It's good. I was going to say, yeah, there's an album and it's just called Dr. Tree, and it's just a really, really funky jazz album. It came out of New Zealand and it sounds like nothing ever that New Zealand's ever released. It's very hard to get and it's got a really amazing cover featuring Brian Smith, who did a lot of work with Nucleus. Later on, he's from here as well.
He went out with my geography teacher.
Really?
Yeah, I met him a few. Oh no, it was my economics lecturer, not my geography teacher.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew those people a bit actually around that time.
Wow. There you go.
He was a good player.
Amazed me. Go on, John.
Amazing player.
So this should have followed Richard Evans, really. Actually, this is the perfect cover to go with Richard Evans, I think. Actually, this is Gene Page, Hot City, and our last guest, John, 6-inch pianist, actually just stuck this up on Instagram a couple of days ago, and it's in the new radio show. It's a kind of produced by Barry White. Gene Page did all the arrangements of Barry White, and this is kind of like, sounds like an instrumental Barry White album actually, but it's just incredible, just amazing rhythm section of Wilton Felder and Ed Green, and it's just, this is kind of just the tightest kind of funky disco you've ever heard in your life actually. And he did 3 or 4. He also did a soundtrack to Blackula, the film as well, which is really good, which came out on Record Store Day. But this is just, I think this is the best album he made actually. Really, really good stuff. And I can see from the covers on the turntable at the moment. But yeah, so Hot City, Gene Page, produced by Barry White.
Nice. Well, I'm showing this a bit nostalgically because it's a CD. This is James Riley, and the album is called Transatlantica, signed by him because it was the last live gig that I went to the week before lockdown in the UK. So I was just sort of reminiscing because it was like, I've not seen any live music since March.
Wow.
And James is he's half American, half English. It's I'm trying to remember who produced it. It's so bloody small on the CD. Matthew Oddmark, who I'm sure I've mentioned to you, John. You seem to know who he was. But anyway,
I know he was a mastering engineer.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I just knew him as a mastering engineer from Nashville.
Yeah. It was recorded in Nashville. Just great songs. And kind of that hybrid of America and UK sort of folk. So there's kind of, a little bit of a country vibe, but a soulful vibe, a sort of mildly funky vibe, but very, very nice songs, really kind of lushly recorded. And James has actually been, so he had his album launched, and then the next week it was lockdown. So he's actually been getting quite a lot of profile by doing gigs on his roof every Friday, which actually the BBC have been covering. Yeah, and he's been doing it, to raise money for local food banks. But you can listen to this, digitally or pick up the CD, not available on vinyl. Very nice.
Wow, that's really cool. Speaking of lockdown, since it's the hot topic for everybody at the moment, I've talked about this in a video before, but this is called Virtual Shadow Ensemble, and it's a record released. It was released during our first lockdown here. It was made during the first lockdown in New Zealand, so it was a collaborative thing remotely, and it's basically a New Zealand spiritual jazz record, which may seem very hard to on Noah Records here understand, but it kind of sounds like it has that sort of 60s Sun Ra, Alice Coltrane vibe, but sort of filtered through, I guess, New Zealand voices and topics, and there's lots of spoken word things about inequality of Indigenous people here, political issues, stuff like that. So it's really amazing. And there's mixtures, it's dub elements in here, spoken word bits, free jazz bits. As you can see here, there's lots of bits in Te Reo, which is our native language, which is really cool, and I think is really important to have that voice in New Zealand. So I think this is a really important social document for the times. over here, and I really love it. I think it's really fantastic. So
yeah, I listened to a track. I think it's a track on YouTube I listened to, and it sounded really, really good. Actually, it's not on Bandcamp, is it?
No. So it's not on Bandcamp. I think it might be on Spotify. I can't remember, but this is the first pressing, and it's sold out. It sold out straight away, and then they're going to announce a second run. So it's just, yeah, I personally, for me, I think it's amazing that we have a document here that represents smaller communities and look down upon communities and stuff like that. So I think in sort of 10 years time, people will hopefully look at this and see that this is kind of a big deal, I guess. Yeah, I really love it.
I got quite heavily into Maori hip hop about 15 years ago.
Cool.
I met these guys at the Womex festival, and we actually ended up staying in the same place together. We had a great time, actually, just basically talking about hip hop for 4 days continuously, actually, which was pretty good.
There's some really interesting Maori hip hop and reggae stuff, and it's sort of like a mixture of South Pacific rhythms and reggae and stuff. And there's some really cool, really unique stuff here that obviously
some very kind of weird, kind of psychedelic elements to it as well. Kind of really interesting. Well, as anyone who watches our videos knows, I'm a big Bill Frisell fan, and I thought I'd missed out on this. This is the vinyl pressing of. One of the problems with Bill Frisell is most of his stuff was put out during the CD kind of period. So, but this came out on double vinyl or none such, and I missed out. The copies all disappeared. But I found one for like £15 a couple of weeks ago on eBay, sealed, which was amazing. And this is a huge kind of double vinyl, that really heavyweight. I mean, it makes the kind of Tone Poet things feel like kind of weedy, actually. Really nice pressing. This was Bill's first time he basically went and made a whole album with musicians in Nashville that he'd never worked with before. And they were pretty much Alison Krauss's backing band. So a really kind of classy band. And it was I think it was a bit of a turning point in his playing, where he started to absorb all these different elements at the same time. And he's been doing some great stuff on YouTube as well, on either his front porch or Tony Scher's front porch, just playing live, actually, which has just been great, I think. And he just seems to get kind of more and more important to me as a musician. Actually, it's quite interesting. Really. I think he's kind of he's not miles, but he's getting there, I think, actually, in terms of the scope of what he does, actually. So I'm very pleased to pick this up, especially for 15 quid. Very happy.
Lovely. What was that on Nonsuch, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh wow, interesting.
And they've just done a great job on it, actually. Kind of, I don't know how much the vinyl weighs, but the cover weighs about 400 grams, I think.
This is, can you see that? This is SAULT. You've probably we've been mentioning them. In fact, we spoke about them in the last video, but I didn't share the vinyl. They've had 2 double vinyl albums released this year, and again, as we're in this theme of music that's been coming out in the last sort of 6 to 8 months, really fantastic music. There was 2 albums that came out last year, 4 and 7, and then this one is called Rise, I think, and there's another one which is yet to be released on vinyl, which is also amazing. And Inflow, the producer who works with Michael Kawanuka and Cleo Soul, is involved. Cleo Soul's involved. It's all very mysterious, although I have heard that Don Letz's daughter is kind of involved in the record label.
I've heard somebody said something very cryptic to me about them a couple of days ago, saying very, very surprised when you find out who's behind it.
Really?
But they wouldn't tell me who.
Well, I know Don Letz's daughter's behind them now.
No, I don't think that would be very. I think it's somebody not from that part of the world at all, actually. But we'll see what happens, actually.
What, from the UK or from?
From the UK, from the UK, but not somebody involved with black music at all. That's the impression I got from what this guy was saying to me about it.
Interesting.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, musically, the first thing that struck me was ESG. Actually, it had that kind of that early 80s kind of slightly punk funk vibe, but actually there's a lot going on, and actually the tracks are quite simple, but often there's something really interesting that happens at the end that you wouldn't have predicted. But a very distinctive production sound, and just very, very like of the moment. Yeah.
I kind of listened to some of their stuff early on, and then I kind of just lost track of the releases, and I got confused by the covers and the names, and I kind of just fallen off somewhere. Yeah, I don't even know how many they have now, but yeah, it was kind of like the train went past and kept going, and I never jumped on it, and I've kind of let it go.
Well, the very latest one, when that comes out on vinyl, I think that's the best one so far.
Right. Okay. There we go. That's all I needed to hear.
Go, James.
All right. Okay, so I did pick up this too, which I kind of didn't want to, because I think the cover is terrible from a design point of view. I just feel like they could have done something so much better with it, and I find it kind of felt very unnecessary to have. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I kind of have criminally overlooked a lot of steeplechase stuff, because it's kind of always been around, or it's kind of cheap, or I don't know why, for whatever reason, I've always gone and bought other things in the store that I feel like I wouldn't see as often, or maybe the covers didn't appeal to me. And when I saw they were doing this, I was like, oh, really? Is it going to be that great? But it's really blown me away. I think it's an amazing compilation of stuff. The Mary Lou Williams track on here is, kind of blew me away, to be honest. I think they've done an amazing job on it. But yeah, amazing. You've got Mary Lou Williams, Johnny Diani. The track that Johnny Diani and Dudu Pukwana is amazing. Khan Jamal, Jackie McLean, Michael Carvin. I've kind of done a full 180 on this, and yeah, I really love it. It makes me want to go back and buy every album on this, but I know these are obviously the best tracks from the album. I know. So yeah, I really like it. It kind of just, I've been playing it all the time. It kind of went beyond my expectations, and yeah, I think they've done a really good job with it.
Does it make you want to buy volumes 1 to 10?
I don't know why. I've picked up a couple. I've got the one that I really like it's number 4, and it's called Americans in Europe. And it's I really like it. It's got some really interesting, I think there's a Don Cherry there, Lee Connert's on there. And then I've also got the one that's, is it called like Spiritual Jazz Islam, which I really like as well. And then the other ones I just haven't bothered with for whatever reason, or, the new one is an Impulse as well, which I think they've just put out.
I'm quite rude about that on the next radio show, actually. I think it's really boring selection, actually. They're just so obvious. The tracks they picked are just really obvious ones. And it kind of, they just should have dug a bit deeper, I think, actually. But I think
I agree. I mean, for me, the only maybe that I would buy the Impulse one is because you can get to hear the whole, I think like there's a whole track on a whole side of an Alice Coltrane one or something like that. They'd really stretch it out, so it should sound really nice. But yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where if you were new to Impulse, it would absolutely blow your mind. It would be perfect. It's got Pharoah Sanders, Alice Coltrane, John Coltrane, all the big names are on there. But if for someone who's bought the whole series and if they're into this, I feel like going back and listening to your big hits is kind of a step backwards. You know what I mean?
One of the reviewers of the Impulse one pointed out it's almost exactly the same as a best of Impulse they had about 10 years ago. It's almost got the same tracks on it. So it's kind of a bit boring, I think. But but that one does look really good. I forgot what I was going to put up next. Actually, let's go for So Andrew Hill, he's another one of my guys, really. And
that is horrible. Is that on Blue Note?
Horrible cover. No, it's on Soul Note.
I knew it was going to be Soul Note. I could just tell before you even said it. The cover.
You showed a whole load of Soul Notes, didn't you, James? Actually,
yeah.
But this is such a great record, actually. I mean, obviously, I love his Blue Note stuff, and I've got all of them. But this one came out in 1980, and it's with Freddie Waits on percussion and Alan Silver on bass, and it's just a great trio record, actually. And really nice recording, great pressing. But as you can see, really, really cheesy cover. But I mean, he's just an absolute one-off, Andrew Hill, I think. He's got his imagination is just kind of extraordinary, really. I think sometimes the closer you listen to his stuff, the harder it is to understand what he's doing, actually. It's almost like you kind of think, what's going on here? I don't get why he played that note after the other note at all, actually. But anyway, this is a really good one. Strange Serenade, Andrew Hill on Soul Night. And I think maybe because the cover's so cheesy, you can pick it up quite cheaply as well, but it's a great record.
Right. Well, this isn't a great cover. But you know Alice Picard, who's on the VC. He shared this on his Instagram, and it just reminded me to go and check it out. And obviously it's Bill Bruford. I think it was recorded in August 77, so at the height of punk. Probably not the most fashionable time to put out a jazz prog record. But interestingly enough, there's a kind of fire in this record which has a punk energy, but doesn't remotely sound anything like punk. But there's Annette Peacock's on vocals on a number of tracks, Alan Holdsworth, who's just phenomenal on the guitar, Jeff Berlin on the bass, Kenny Wheeler's on there on the flugel, and obviously Bill Bruford on the drums. But great album, and yeah, just really its own kind of sound. There's this sort of UK prog fusion sound. Obviously with Jeff Berlin, who was American, but really great, actually. Yeah, I played a track from that.
I think Annette seems a bit out of tune on that record, isn't she, though?
Annette is.
She's a bit, I love her. I think she's my absolute heroine, Annette, but she does sing a bit out of tune on that record, I think, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't noticing it, but yeah. It's an unusual combination.
Very unusual. Yeah. I don't think she could hear herself very well when she was performing with them, I don't think.
Right.
Actually.
Maybe live, yeah. But should have been able to hear herself in the studio with some.
Oh, you would hope so.
Yeah. Take it away, James.
This is my last one, but I also cheated and brought some extras just in case, but I think we'll better stick to the program. This is a numero group release from about 7 or 8 years ago, and the guy's called Anfoso Lovo, and he's from Puerto Rico. And this is kind of it's like a Latin psychedelic record. I think this is really overlooked. I actually think it's absolutely amazing. So he was kind of an activist in Puerto Rico, and has some really weird synthesizer effects that almost sound proggish in here. The second side is almost like one long suite of music. It's like a mixture of, I guess, Latin music and psychedelic, because I don't know how this is the way to describe it. It's just super, super interesting. I really like it. I think it's one of those, I play this to lots of people that come over, because I know it's one of the things that pretty much everybody will like it if they don't know it already. It's super cool.
Nice.
I think they are the classy solution label, I think.
Oh, I know. And look at this, another one. It's super heavy, always for the premium. They do a really good job. So this came out in, I think, sort of like the mid 70s. Really great.
Nice.
This would have been a VC. Sure, I think somebody in the VC must have shown this years ago for me to find out about it. Can't remember who it would have been. But yeah.
Nice.
Chris will have an original.
But you what?
Chris will have an original copy.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. God. Somewhere.
Okay. My last record is. I've got one of two here. I think I'm going to go for this actually. Tim Byrne. Been listening to a lot of Tim Byrne recently, and this for a period. Tim Byrne's an alto saxophone player from New York, very much kind of downtown, kind of almost like a downtown star, I guess, if you have stars in downtown scene. Great alto saxophone player. And this was, for a short period of time, he was with Columbia, and this was an album he put out called Sanctified Dreams on Columbia, with a fantastic band, with Herb Robinson on trumpet, Mark Dresser on bass, Joey Barron, and just really good band, actually. And I've just been really getting into his stuff. Most of his stuff came out on very beautifully made CDs, all of which I've got actually on his own level screw gun. But he's a kind of absolute kind of classic and musician. And it's weird how these labels opened up for a period of time and let kind of Columbia let in Alpha Blythe and Blood Ulmer and all these kind of people in for a while as well. And obviously you had Arista putting on Nancy Braxton and so forth. But this is a great album, really kind of, and you can pick it up for virtually nothing, but a real good one.
Nice. Okay, well, my last one, this only arrived yesterday, This is by an artist called Chimino, and the album is called I Am Panda. And this is on the Gearbox record label, which is
Right.
a very sort of high fidelity analog studio in King's Cross. And Chimino is a drummer percussionist who has got some amazing drum setup where every single cymbal, hi-hat, tom is triggering samples. So as he plays his drum kit, he's kind of orchestrating whole pieces of music, which in a way you don't necessarily need to know, but there's a kind of density and a heaviness, which once you realize it, it kind of makes sense of the music. So it's early days because I've barely heard the whole thing. It's a double album, recorded really nicely, and yeah, just something a bit different.
Wow.
There is the name.
Is he a panda though?
Sorry?
Is he a panda though?
That's the real question.
Is he a panda? I don't think he is, John.
Great description, Dan.
So James,
yeah, they're a great label.
Yeah, it's excellent. Any books to share, James?
Yeah, I've got a couple, and I've got a bonus one at the end. But so long story short, I'm a graphic designer, and one of my main clients, my main client is still based in Melbourne, and they're obviously still over in lockdown. So every week we have like a video catch up, and they have like a team bonding exercise. And this week's exercise was to show some things that you're passionate about that gives you a bit of an insight into your personality. So of course I was going to show some records and talk about some album covers. So I pulled out a whole bunch of Blue Notes and did a whole like presentation on the graphic design work of Blue Notes. So I had this book pulled out, and I hadn't looked at it in years. And then I sort of was flicking through it late last night, and I forgot how amazing this is with the photography and the artwork, and kind of when I first bought it, I sort of flicked through it and didn't read it from front to back, but I think I'm actually going to sit down and spend a few months and just actually really go through and read it. Yeah, kind of last night I was sort of like, my jaw was dropping about how beautiful it is, and I kind of just forgot that I kind of had it. So I just, I think I'm going to be spending the next few weeks going back through this.
Nice.
Beautiful book.
The text is really good as well, actually. I mean, I like the way they're kind of even-handed. They look at the kind of later stages of Blue Note as well as the classic times as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, sort of like you get into the 80s stuff and the design gets very sort of questionable. Like even that, like for me, it's a great album, but I'm like, really? I guess it's a time and a place. But yeah, it is. It's really interesting. So yeah, that's my first pick, I guess. Have you guys got more than one or just one book?
I've got one. I've just got to go and grab it. Actually, I'm going to leave the screen temporarily. Actually, I had it in my vision. Yeah. Just one second. You do yours, Mark, and I'll do mine.
Okay. Well, this is one of those books which, I mean, the book I showed last time, I'm still only halfway through it because it's so dense. And this is another book which I'm only halfway through. It's kind of relevant to me at the moment because I'm about to sort of enter a period of working with the NHS. This is called Radical Health: How we can remake the relationships between us and revolutionize the welfare state, by Hilary Cottam, which is something which I'm very interested about. These huge institutions are kind of revealing both their strengths and their weaknesses in this time, and the idea that people who use services actually can be really deeply involved in the design of them and improving them seems to still be a kind of new concept, but I'm hoping it's one of the things that's going to change.
Yeah,
I know her. I'm sure I know her. Hilary Cottam. Yeah, really familiar name actually. Anyway.
All right, John.
Mine's not about the health service at all. It's this book,
Revolution
in the Head, which I'm amazed how a lot of people don't know this book at all. Actually, it's absolutely this one.
You don't know it?
No, I don't know it. No.
Oh, James.
Basically, it's like it basically takes apart every single Beatles song completely. Looks at who plays on it, how it's recorded, everything about it. It's a great book. I mean, this is an old edition of it, but there's been several new ones. And I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago. I was really surprised they'd never read the book, actually.
The best.
It's a classic. It's in fact the only book you really need on the Beatles, I think, actually.
If you're into the music, it's so
Yeah,
fascinating.
really good.
I think, yeah, I probably have gone to a bookstore and it's like, there's 100 Beatles books here. I don't know what to pick. I don't know. I know, just too hard.
That's the one.
This is the one.
Honestly,
Yeah. I'll check it out. Great.
Mm.
The other like book I'm reading is a memoir of a New Zealand artist here. He was really big for the New Zealand post-punk scene. His name's Graham Jeffries, but in sort of the 80s and 90s, he moved to London and spent a lot of time around London. It's his story of basically, you know, moving from a small town in New Zealand out to London, and it's his time through basically. It's a lot of the themes are about his sort of integrity of being a musician and how hard it is to live in London when you are squatting and, you know, lots of extreme poverty, and sort of his desire to make music and really be seen, and how tough it was, you know, in London at the time and stuff like that. And a really interesting book. And I actually kind of know him pretty well because he sells at the record fair that I go to a lot. So we chat quite a lot. So it's kind of interesting to read his story. But yeah, his stuff got reissued, has been reissued under the Cake Kitchen, which is his name. And he was in a band called This Kind of Punishment, which Superior Viaduct have reissued all the stuff. So he's kind of finally getting his day in the sun the past couple of years, which is really nice to see because he was struggling for quite a while. Which is really nice. So it's kind of nice to read a book by somebody you know in person, which is kind of a strange feeling.
Yeah. Both Mark and I were post-punk squatters, weren't we? Really?
We were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, really good. Really interesting insight for me. What I imagine it's like to be touring in the 80s and 90s. You know, and how to book things without the internet, and just that whole thing of, yeah, I mean, for you guys that was the normal thing, but for me that's slightly before my time to understand how it all worked and how things worked. And there's lots of like tour diary things, and how lots of things seem to happen through luck or chance or things like that. So yeah, it's really interesting because he never actually makes it, sort of thing. You know, he ended up coming back here, and now he actually works in a supermarket, which is really sad. But just the idea of the integrity of being, I'm going to be a musician and that's all I'm going to do, and that's what I want to do, and if I don't make it, I don't care. That's my passion, sort of thing. So
I found something I thought I'd lost, which was the kind of, it's basically like a price list of bands from the 70s, and it has like kind of, you know, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, £500, kind of Traffic, $450, and so forth. I'm going to stick it up on Instagram in the next couple of days. Yeah. It was kind of from 1972 or something or other.
Wow.
And it has like all these kind of this, and some, you know, some people are going out for like £50 or £100. That's like free, I think, with that for £100 or something or other.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
How do they come up with those numbers at that point? I mean, is that based on record sales? You know, like it must be so hard to gauge.
It's like a typed thing, you know. It's not like a kind of. It's like somebody's typed it up as a price list, basically, and sent it out to people.
It's probably whether you had a manager or not as well. I
think it had a lot to do with
it. Any sort of TV or film selections anyone wants to share?
I've got one more thing quick, but I actually just watched The Godfather for the first time ever, believe it or not, the other week. I never see it. It's just one of those ones that slipped beyond me. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just hadn't seen it, and I really enjoyed it. It was so much. I knew it was going to be good, but I was really impressed by it in terms of a classic thing. I'm going to do a little plug here. This is, I got featured in the latest Dig magazine, which is super cool. So I got to write a little story, which I was really happy with. So it's kind of nice to see my name in print.
I shared this a couple of videos ago, James.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought I'd plug. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, so I thought I'd show you. But
I shared it and mentioned you.
Oh, did you? There you go. On where? Did you?
Yeah, a couple of videos ago. It's a great magazine, isn't it?
Yeah, super cool. So that was really nice. Like, it's you can obviously buy these in the UK at record stores, I imagine.
I get mine online. I've never seen it in a record store, but
I had it in my head that you could buy them at record stores. I don't know.
Yeah, they do have. They have it in Honest. I'm up the road from Honest John's and Rough Trade, and they have it in there, definitely.
There you go. It's kind of nice to be have what is your passion. Someone wants to put it in print or put it in a physical way. It's kind of a nice feeling when something that you might see as a hobby can be used in a way to share. You know, like it's like not validation or something, but you know.
No, it's great. They have really obscure and interesting records there every edition. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's on top of me being in there, it's actually a really good read. So
yeah,
I was really happy with that.
Very small font is the only thing.
I have I
Oh,
always
wow.
watch it usually once every couple of years, Mulholland Drive, and it's kind of just gets better every time I watch it. Actually, I definitely think it's one of the best films of this century, really. And there's one bit in there which is so scary, and what makes it more scary is they tell you exactly what's going to happen before it happens. And then it happens, you still jump out of your skin every time you see it. I mean, classic David Lynch. And David Lynch has been a real kind of figure during lockdown. He's been doing these fantastic. I don't know if you've seen his weather reports, James. He does every. It's brilliant. Actually. Today's very funny, actually. But anyway, so God bless David Lynch and enjoy Mulholland. If you've never seen Mulholland Drive, you have to watch it.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying Schitt's Creek at the moment on Netflix, which is a kind of just a comedy, 6 series of comedy, a Canadian family. Yeah,
cool.
Light.
Yeah, it's just ended or something, right? Or it's finally finished, or there's a season finale or something, or some big.
Schitt's
It was
Creek.
Yeah.
Possibly. I'm still on season 1, so there's many.
Okay, I think it might have just finished or something.
Okay, yeah, but it's almost the antithesis of a heavy David Lynch film would be Schitt's Creek.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you've got to have the balance right. Sometimes I think my records are too serious. Like I need to just have more fun music in my life. I can't be listening to Anthony Braxton for days. I need to mix it up. You got to have the balance.
You need some Italian disco.
He's a very funny guy, Anthony Braxton. I actually met him a few times, and he's just hilarious. His music's incredibly serious, but he's a very funny guy.
Right. There you go.
Right. Well, I feel as though we should say goodbye to anyone who's still watching this, and well done for hanging in there. And wonderful to have James as our special guest.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Keep vibing, and we'll be back soon.
Oh, thank you.